Let us move to you directly. I mean, we've already been getting all sorts of great feedback from you on PR marketing. So you're not only a kick-ass PR marketing person.
Thank you.
Okay. You had told me that you sit on some boards of nonprofit organizations.
I do.
So you're kind of seeing governance at a different level.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. And you're kicking ass, taking names, but you're a woman.
That also, yes.
Yo, I'm not going to lie to you. That doesn't happen every day.
It does not.
Right? So that's a big deal. I mean, by the way, I recently read something in the Wall Street Journal that very soon, I didn't miss the date, but very soon, more than half of the labor force will be women.
Absolutely.
Man, so you know this? Did you read that?
Wouldn't it be awesome if half the C-suite could be women too? And half of the board directors could be women?
I mean, it's wacky that it's not even close to half.
Actually, so there's
got to round down to zero.
So California has a piece of legislation in place, and I believe Illinois is either considering it or already passed it. That
amazing.
Says listen to how unambitious this is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, everyone's up.
Just the fact that it's out, I was happy about it. But now you're saying it's a piece of shit.
So the legislation says that if you're a publicly traded company, you have to have at least one woman on your board.
Oh, that is pretty unambitious.
One. So, all right, guys, great. You know,
wow.
Like we've got 50% of the workforce is women.
It's
and everyone's thinking that it's overly ambitious to say that the people will have one woman
depressing.
On every board.
It's like the state's version.
Oh my God, how are we? And it is actually amazing how many companies don't.
I know. That's the whole point.
Just
that's why they're putting at least one. It's like the government's version of affirmative action. Remember that for colleges? How you got to let a certain amount of minorities into a certain school or whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh my God, that we have to do that is crazy.
You know, and it's funny because I think that a lot of people don't like affirmative action, right? They think it results in people who aren't qualified getting put into positions. It's a controversial thing, and I think that there's a lot of people who don't like it, and it's because there are women and minorities who are in positions because they freaking earned it. Like they had to be twice as good as the next person to get into that position. But then if there is affirmative action involved at all, then people are, oh, well, you're just, you're on this board because we needed a woman,
right.
Or something like that.
A little shine off the apple.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't really belong
here.
It
isn't, not everyone agrees on
unearned.
whether there should be programs like that, whether they're legislated or otherwise. And I don't have a strong opinion on that. I think it's circumstantial. So it kind of depends on how something is organized and things. But I do have a strong opinion. I mean, like if you want to run a company well, you need a diversity of ideas. You need a diversity of perspectives. And so you can't get that if every guy in the room is an old white guy, like that's just not going to happen, especially if they're all like old straight white guys.
Oh, man.
The
one thing they'll definitely know about it is my favorite joke for some reason. They never get to laugh. Adult diapers. They'll definitely know a lot about adult diapers.
Well, after a certain age, I guess they will.
Yeah. See, it never fucking works, right, John?
Yeah. Stop saying it.
You're still trying to make it a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I changed so many diapers right now because I have two kids, both in diapers.
Oh, geez.
I changed so many diapers. It is rough, and let me tell you. I changed so many diapers that just the thought of me wearing a diaper one day cracks me up. And so, when I get into senior citizens and adult diapers, it just sounds so funny to me.
So that's like a new category of comedy is adult diaper comedy?
Maybe
you heard it here first.
I should try and do something with it. Try and get someone to laugh.
I'm not sure the last millennial is agreeing with that.
Definitely against.
Pretty indifferent about it.
Maybe it'll go over better with an older audience, maybe.
So I think not only could you give us some value from the perspective of PR marketing, but also as like a woman who's kind of kicking ass. Like that's rare. Like we got you. So like there's women who listen to this pod.
But
I think it is.
I think it's rarer in certain industries than others.
That's true. But if you look generally,
sure,
right? If you look generally, the numbers have to be atrocious.
Yeah, I mean they are atrocious. Like I said, like the fact that it's controversial that a company should have one woman on their board, like sure. But on the other hand, like I have had so many great female mentors, and I know so many, working in commercial real estate and banking and these industries that are very admittedly male dominated. Totally. The women in these industries are so freaking inspiring.
Oh yeah,
because they have had to be 5 times as good. So one of a group that we support is the Goldie Initiative, and it's led by a woman named Goldie Wolf, who is just like the doyen of commercial real estate brokerage, and she is.
What is doyen?
So she is like.
Do you know what doyen is, Maddie? John, do you know what doyen is?
Not a clue.
I feel so much better.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, I don't apologize.
75-cent words.
You're about to make us all smarter. Go ahead, explain doyen.
She is the leading, like, sort of a now I'm going to have a hard time describing it.
How about I just sing it? I'm every woman. It's all in you.
She's like
is that
the thing we all aspire to, and she is like the woman who did it first and is bringing other women along.
Got it.
And she made a ton of money as a commercial real estate broker, and is her dream is to help a lot of other women do the same thing. And at the Goldie Initiative, she does that. She does it through scholarships, things like that, and we work with them, and it's like these are truly inspiring stories.
Wow.
And I know other women in the industry who are principals in like their family's development and investment company, or women who have spent 30 years in banking and run their organization and are
so rare.
Amazing.
When I was at JP Morgan, so rare.
And so it's not as rare now as it was. Like, I started in commercial real estate in the 90s, and I was, I think, the second woman at the company, the developer that I worked at, who was not a secretary at the company, and the other one was a construction manager, so she wasn't even in the office. But and that was in the 90s. Like, it's ridiculous but it is much better today than it was then.
It is much better. Yeah, I get that.
I think we're now at a point where we can have the conversation instead about like, oh, should women even be employed in this industry? We can be talking about women's salaries. There should be, salary equity. There should be more women in the C-suite, because there is a pipeline. And so there's a CEO that I work with. I'm on the board of SomerCor. It's a SBA lender.
SOMER, right?
SOMERCOR, yeah. And we have a new CEO.
Oh my God. I've worked with SomerCor in the past. Yeah, through my late father's restaurant, which I now run.
Yeah. They do 504 loans for like owner-occupied real estate, and restaurants are a big part of that.
We were part of a TIF, tax increment financing zone in Hyde Park, and so I applied, and we got I think it was a grant. It wasn't a loan in this case.
Oh,
but maybe
it was through SomerCor. It might have been through the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund.
That's it.
Yeah,
it was exactly it.
Yeah, no, it's great programs, and I'm really proud to be on their board. We have a new CEO. His name's Manny Flores.
They're a nonprofit?
Yeah. So they're an SBA lender.
Okay.
So it's run, run very much like it is a financial organization. So it's run with kind of those tenets, but it is absolutely a not-for-profit whose mission is to bring capital to companies that wouldn't otherwise be able to be successful. So our new CEO was hiring for a sales position, and he emailed the board, and I just love that he did this, and he said, I want to populate our sales process, but I want to have women in this process, and I want to have minorities. And right now, all of the referrals I've gotten are white men. And I don't want to move forward with interviews until we're interviewing a pool of people that reflect our constituents. And I love that he did that, because whoever gets the job, it might be one of the white guys, if that's the most qualified person.
But at least it was a fair shake.
Exactly. That's the most qualified person should get the job. But if you create networks that actually have people interviewing for jobs that are diverse, then you will naturally create diversity in your organization. And the same thing goes for board seats, and the same thing goes for C-suite positions. The qualified people are out there. You just have to go to a little extra trouble to find women or minorities, or people who don't fit the mold.
Totally. Great story. I love that story. That's fantastic.
Yeah, hats off to Manny for doing that.
Agreed. Manny, you should run for mayor.
He was an alderman.
Get out of here. There you go. All right. So PR marketing.
Yeah.
All right. Is it really that valuable? Right? Because I feel
come on now.
I feel like, hold on. I feel like a lot of people in small and medium-sized businesses are like, that's a waste of money. If it's not adding to my bottom line directly, why would I waste my time with that?
Yeah.
Right. So instead of debating that, I'd rather talk about some examples or experiences you've had where you're like, yo, I saw direct value. I added or I saw direct value through marketing PR. Your role as a marketing PR person is to tell a story, tell a company's story.
Yeah.
Sounds simple. Like, why do I need to hire someone to tell my story if I can tell my damn story myself? So like, how could telling a story in a certain way actually bring more dollars and cents, if at all?
So a lot of times what we're doing is directly supporting sales efforts. And nobody has a hard time understanding, that if you introduce a customer to someone selling a service or a product, and they make a sale, then you've created value, right? So we do a lot of lead gen, we do a lot of lead development, and it keeps salespeople in touch with their clients in between, in between touch points. So it's email newsletters and social media and things like that. And what I absolutely love is when one of our clients will call us and say, you helped me. We ghost wrote this piece. We published an article and it was out there and my phone rang and it was a guy who hadn't thought of me and now we're doing a deal together. And that happens more than you might think, so.
Where you help write the blog post or the article.
Well, usually we didn't help write it. We wrote it. Yeah.
You took their ideas, you write it.
Yeah, it's our client's ideas, but we are the writers because that's, they're good at commercial mortgage brokerage or commercial real estate or finance. And then we are good at articulating that and making it
telling it a certain way.
Exactly.
You tell it a certain way
to human beings.
Right. You tell it a certain way. The receiving end, the person who reads it, let's say it's a customer, is like, whoa, that really hit me in the right spot.
Yeah.
Like, I got to call this dude up.
Or it just reminds them that they're out there. Honestly, a lot of times in a deal-oriented business like investment banking or real estate, if you're a owner of a company, like you only need to sell your company once every, couple decades or so. But if you are in the real estate business, maybe you will trade buildings ever so often, but in between, like, do you need a mortgage broker every time, for example? Maybe not. Sometimes the financing just comes together directly with the bank. You don't need a broker, but it might come down the line when you need a broker again. And so if you want to think, the broker wants you to think of them at exactly the right point when you need them. And so they need to keep in touch with people on a more regular basis. They need to be in the media or they need to be on LinkedIn and just have people remember, oh yeah, that guy really helped me the last time. So.
Okay. So, how about in that example you just described where maybe there is a real estate developer who wants to sell their company or a different company that wants to sell their company? You had told me about this before we jumped on this podcast. Like, have you seen experiences where a company's price tag changes because of the way the story is told?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, any investment banker worth their salt will say part of the pre-sale process, if you're going to sell a company, is to get the narrative right and to articulate that business story.
By the way, have you followed WeWork at all?
Of course, yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
What a shit show that's been. Oh my God. Adam Newman.
They could have used a little more help on their narrative.
Oh my God. They should have totally hired you because that's real estate. It's finance. It's all in your wheelhouse. Did they call you? Are they your client?
No,
do we have you to blame for this?
I'd love to have WeWork as a client. So,
If you're listening, Adam Newman.
WeWork.
Yeah, if you're listening, Adam Newman.
Yeah. Less
Run DMC and weed and more Margy Sweeney.
And honestly, more women on your board.
Boom.
No, they, any company that is going to go public or sell themselves to another company, privately, they've got to get in front of what the story is and understand also what their weak points are. Like, I'm a PR person, I'm positive by nature. Like, we always want to see the good in something.
We'll find a great way to say this. Come on, exactly. We got this.
But when we're behind the scenes, like when we're getting that story together, we have to be the ones.
You and your other PR people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, shit, this thing is a piece of shit. How are we going to tell this story?
No, it's not like that. It's like, okay, here's the realistic things. Here's the tough questions people are going to ask you. So let's get ready. Let's do some media training.
Again, this is where you get real.
Yeah, let's tell the story and let's think about the questions people are going to ask you. And I actually, if we're going to go with WeWork as the example, like, nobody challenged them on, like, people are going to call you out and not have any women on your board. Like, that's going to be a thing in this era.
Wow.
And it would have been so easy for them to fix that problem before it went public.
I got to tell you, there's some, I don't know if you saw some of the sketchy shit he was doing. Like, he was buying buildings himself with fashion designers. He'd buy a big building and then he'd rent that. He bought it on his personal balance sheet, and then he'd rent that building to WeWork, the corporation, and WeWork would be paying him personally rent.
I think there's a lot of those deals that people are talking about, and I usually stick to, I'm not an expert in real estate investment. Like, I don't have an MBA in real estate finance. Okay. I help people tell their stories. We help articulate the stories. And I think that that's probably a case where if that's the way he had been doing business, which was legal in the way that he was doing it, as far as I understand it, then he needed to look at that and say, okay, how am I going to tell the story so it doesn't seem shady to people?
It does seem like he's hurting his. It's not illegal.
Right.
He's just hurting his shareholders potentially, depending on what he chooses to charge them rent. And he has so much power in this. And
that's something that that I think before all of this was kind of cracked open with their IPO, that could have been something that they could have had a narrative around, not to fool the public. Like I said, I'm very into authentic leadership. But to actually say, why does this make sense?
All right,
you're explaining, it's not making sense to you, or you think there's potential.
I've read it millions of times. I'm trying to figure out what the hell, how could this possibly have gone on? And the two ways it goes on is, one, somehow he had, and like this is like Zuckerberg, they have, even though the normal voting power is per share, one vote for one share. But how it's come in these new tech companies, it's like, no. Zuckerberg gets 40 votes per share for each of his shares. It's like, what? Yeah, because he's CEO. That's how he decided. So Newman had that. Adam Newman had that. He would have basically the major voting power of the board. So no matter what the board decides, he could veto whatever he wants because he had the voting power to do that. And so, so let's say he buys a building, right? He buys Willis Tower, let's just say. And he's like, I'm going to rent out half this thing to WeWork.
Just your average building.
Yeah,
the tallest building.
Yeah, the tallest building in Chicago.
We'll just use that as an example.
And he rents out half of it to WeWork, right? And he says, I want $1,000 a square foot. Well, Adam, it's only $500 in the market. Yeah, but I want $1,000. Okay. How can WeWork say no? WeWork has to say yes. It's his shareholders' money that's saying yes.
I would say that if anything he's doing is legal and the way that it's financially set up and it's legal, then it's up for the market to decide. Like, people can choose to invest or not invest.
Which they have.
I mean, that's the way it works.
But you as a marketing person would have been like, Adam, this looks shady. You better start explaining. And he might have been like, well, Margy, I actually was trying to make a whole bunch of money for myself off of this. And that's when you'd be like, you probably need to come clean and say, I effed up and I'm now releasing these buildings. I'm selling this off to other buyers. WeWork and its success is more important to me than my personal wealth.
And you're actually getting to I don't know.
That would have been authentic, potentially.
I don't know what was happening behind the scenes.
It was
actually, I'm pretty sure they have some good communications people because their marketing kicks ass. Like, I have to say, like, the way that
their general marketing?
Absolutely.
Agreed. Their IPO marketing, completely effed up. They were trying to get $50 billion. Then they went down to $20 billion. And now they're for valuation.
What's $30 billion between friends? Come on.
A WeWork beer tap, $30 billion. I don't know. And now we're gonna postpone our IPO. They weren't even gonna get 20. They would have gotten 10. My whole argument was Regis. Have you heard of Regis? Of
course, yeah.
They're a $12 billion company, and they have 5 times as much real estate as WeWork.
They've been quietly around for a really long time.
Yeah, can WeWork really be worth much more than $12 billion?
And they're
probably not.
Yeah, they have an interesting place in the market. But I think I think WeWork is doing a lot of great things, actually, and I think that they have been true disruptors in the market.
Okay.
And, I obviously some things were bungled with the IPO, but I don't want to speculate as to what was happening behind the scenes. But what PR and marketing people like me deal with sometimes is behind the scenes. People don't want to tell you the whole story, or they're like, I just phrase this nicely, make it pretty, make it sound good. And if they're not disclosing, the advice that I give to executives is like, be candid with your PR people. Totally. Be candid. If you're paying somebody to be your communications advisor,
communicate.
You're always under a some kind of confidentiality agreement. So you can, if you're working with a reputable firm.
It's like with your lawyer. Tell your lawyer everything.
Yeah, or what are you paying them?
They don't have to help you.
They can't protect you from something they don't know exists. So
okay,
the same thing is true with us.
So let's go back to the point. Sorry about WeWork. I went off track, but where the story.
I really do. Honestly, I admire WeWork as a company because they do something that I think is pretty amazing, and they've completely changed the dialogue of how companies use office space.
Yes.
And I love that kind of disruption.
I do too.
I think it's very, very cool.
I think their leadership is just has completely shat their pants. That's what pisses me off. But let's go back to, WeWork's an example where I was asking you, like, hey, has the story you've told in the past been able to impact where a person sells his company? He thought he was going to sell his company for 25. He actually was able to sell it for 50. Do you have experiences like that?
Not with a company sale, to be honest with you. Like that's usually we partner with our clients on a long term. Like the bank that we've worked with, people on my team have worked with them since 1999. And so we've been with them through thick and thin. And we were with them through TARP. We were with them in various capacities. Like we used to do PR for them. Now we do marketing for them, like just different things. So, we've definitely worked with companies that were sold. And, I like to think that we were part of that equation. Usually PR and marketing isn't all of it. But where telling that story comes in is actually with people who work on investment banking teams, and they will articulate that story.
Yes.
And they will do that very directly. What PR and marketing do is they help position you in the marketplace. So if you're going to be a more valuable company if people see you as a unique solution, as a sophisticated solution, as true innovators and things like that. And that's what we can, that's where like our special sauce comes in, I think, is helping people differentiate themselves, make themselves, tell their story in a way that's truly different. And it's harder than it's harder than it sounds, because there's a lot of things in this world that are commoditized. Like take architecture, for example.
Okay.
There's a lot of architecture firms out there. There's any number of firms who can design kick-ass office space, office interiors, so who could do something that is similar to a WeWork or, beautiful spaces like that, who can put the strategy together and design beautiful space. So which one do you hire?
Right.
And so every architecture firm, for example, has an interesting story, and they are going to be different from the office interiors architecture firm that's across the street.
Yep.
And telling those stories and really getting to the bottom of it and saying, okay, this is what makes us different is...
It's harder than it sounds.
It is, because the product is sometimes very similar.
Right.
But many times it's the working experience, or it's the perspective or the advice that you get from certain principals. It's that...
The people, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. In most professional services like architecture or PR or law or accounting, it's the people.
Yes, absolutely. Not necessarily the firm itself.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds harder, because what I heard you saying, you're like, we got to differentiate. I help you guys differentiate. I get your story and I help you differentiate. I'm like, and I help you make you unique. And it made me think of like going viral, right? That's not easy. Going viral is effing hard.
Yeah, it is effing hard.
But it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's your job to get them to go viral, but in a way it is, right?
Yeah.
Have you been able to make one of your clients, like because of some work you did, have you made them make them go viral, or they go trending? They're trending suddenly? Because that is valuable.
A lot more with consumer companies than it does with like commercial real estate.
Right, that would be weird, I guess.
Yeah,
but it could in that community, it could go viral.
Yeah, I was going to say it's there's nothing good that's going to happen for like a buttoned up financial company if they go viral at, like the ice bucket challenge or something like that. It's much more important that they reach the right 100 people than the wrong 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And so you got to know those 100 people really freaking well to know what is going to turn them on, what is going to make them respond well, of those people who are going to be the investment decision makers that drive business to you.
Have you been able to turn on 100 people?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
sorry.
There's so many.
I walked right into that.
There's so many meanings there.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we should go with that.
Going back to trending and viral.
You got me.
Going back to trending and viral. So, like, give us an example of where you felt like you did create value. It was something very valuable that you brought to the table with them.
Yeah. So we work with a company called Skender that is here in Chicago. And they for 60 years, they were a construction company.
Construction.
Yeah. And then in 2018, they had studied this and they said, we're not happy with the building process being just the way it's been for a long time. It's getting very expensive. It is...
Bring the steel, bring the drywall, bring the bricks, bring the glass.
And it is the same process. While the rest of the world has been improving their processes and getting better, we're still building buildings.
Like Europe and Japan and other places?
Just not within the industry, like other industries, have been progressing.
Why are we so behind?
Getting better. Why hasn't there been any fundamental change in the process of creating
Good
buildings?
question, Skender. Skender.
Yeah. And so the answer is, well, let's freaking change it. Let's revolutionize the way the industry
Now, wait,
builds
did
buildings.
you say that or did Skender say that?
They said that.
Okay,
and
so
then
like,
they
let's
called
change
us
it.
in.
So they're like, all right, we know what we want to do.
Yeah.
Rub their hands together.
Exactly.
And they're like,
And
now let's get someone to help us say this.
Right. And we were already working with them on the PR front, doing ghostwriting articles and doing media relations. But we worked with them and we, sat down and said, okay, this is a complex story. Because Skender bought an architecture firm and launched a new manufacturing company and opened a factory on the southwest side of Chicago. Like, they did all of this within like a year and a half.
They're a construction company that bought an architecture company.
Yep.
Built a new factory on the southwest side.
Yep.
And what else?
And they're building buildings in it. So
Okay.
they're actually
And they're building
modular
buildings
inside
in
the
the factory.
Absolutely.
They build a building in the factory. It's like building an airplane in the factory, and then they fly the airplane. They build the building in the factory,
They
almost
build
like
parts of the building. So
almost like a double wide, like a what do they call those things?
Beautiful trailers, but
trailer home, but it's like
beautiful.
not a trailer home, a trailer building.
they can build 12-story apartment buildings this way. They can
No.
build hotels. Absolutely. Yeah, you can actually go see a model of them inside their factory. And they are...
No, wait. They don't actually build the 12 stories in the factory.
No.
They build parts of it.
Parts of it. And then it gets assembled on site.
Got it.
So think about it. If you build...
That's gangster.
If you take... Yeah. Like if you... It's thinking like complete, total, real innovation. Because instead of building a building outside where you have all of the safety issues and weather delays and things like that,
Right.
they control the entire supply chain because they're going to build the buildings inside the factory and then deliver them in parts, and they're still going to take responsibility for the final product.
Whose idea was? I got to give this dude credit. Was it Mr. Skender?
So it was his idea to do it in their company. Yeah. Mark Skender.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yo, Mark Skender, got to have you on the podcast one day, brother. All right, so
and
did
Tim
it work?
Swanson, their chief design officer.
What's the name?
Tim Swanson.
Tim Swanson.
He's
Good
a
dudes.
architect. And,
This is smart.
Yeah.
This is huge.
Absolutely.
So, okay, this is 2018. Did it go viral and start trending? And this was kind of people were all over
when
it?
the factory opened. Yeah.
When the factory opened.
we started to tell the story, and people were like, wow, what the heck?
Before the factory opened.
Yeah. So there was a year between announcing the rebrand of Skender Construction became Skender. Because there is now Skender.
Architecture.
There's a design team, and there's a construction team, and there's a manufacturing team. So it's all under the Skender wrapper now. And so there was the announcement of the rebrand and this whole idea. And then the idea came into reality, and the factory opened at the end of May. So Lori Lightfoot, her first week as mayor.
2019.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months ago. Okay, cool.
Exactly. I mean, this is a like clear and present thing. And, I think that...
So Lori Lightfoot came to the opening?
Yeah. She got the ribbon.
A year in advance, you start doing all the PR.
Yeah.
And you start getting it out there.
Exactly.
And it's building, the buzz is building. Then May comes, Lori shows up, she cuts the ribbon, and it goes bananas?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's bringing serious
People
value.
from across the industry came. There was an event that Skender co-hosted with BizNow. It's a real estate organization, and people came. Their competitors came. Other to see like, what's this all about.
Y'all ain't doing shit. We got this down. All right, that's such a gangster move on your part. And Skender's part. Well, hold on. No. Because there's been tons of innovation in the world. Apple's a great example, right? Like, Apple's innovation was extremely effective, not just because they're kick-ass. They marketed it successfully.
Right.
People don't get that. Like,
Right.
we all know
just
about
a
it.
Good idea.
We were all standing in line for a reason back in 2007, whenever the first iPhone came out,
Right.
So you got people to kind of stand in line for Skender in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people, they are able to, inside this factory, they're able to build hotels. They're able to build apartments. They're building 3 flats for scattered site affordable housing. Like, there's a lot of big picture like problems that this can solve. It's a really cool story to be a part of.
Real estate.
Telling that story, like, people don't get it. They don't even know that they can, save money on building their buildings this way. So
it's cheaper too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's more effective, it's more efficient, it's cheaper.
And the design is amazing. It's kick-ass design. One of the ways that we publicize this, we had a media tour when they opened there's like an apartment model that's inside the factory. And so we had journalists to come and do it. And I was there with one of the members of our team who's 24. And of course she rents an apartment on Chicago's North Side. And she walked in and she's like, yeah, this is awesome. This is so much better than my place. Like, can I move in here?
Oh man, I don't want to see what she's living in right now.
Actually, she lives in a pretty nice place.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Whoa, that surprised me.
Yeah.
All right. So that's PR marketing, and so how you bring value. That is clear that you made Skender a lot of money in many ways.
I hope so.
I mean,
this is a story that's playing out.
Correct.
Right?
It's kind of what you said. It's in lead generation. You just generated tons of leads for them.
People are asking about it. They're seeing it in the media. They're saying, tell us more about it. So we hand it over, and then they get to give tours and tell their story because people are talking about it.
Exactly.
And they've started this discourse.
To what extent could you share with us what something like that might cost for a small company, medium company, big company?
There's
not even how much
ways you can
how do you
approach
charge? How do you look at that?
So we charge just like an accounting firm or a law firm does. We charge by the hour, and we estimate. We can do retainers, we can do projects. So it really.
We think
depends.
this will be 500 hours, and we'll charge $75 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever.
So honestly, our rates are $175 an hour. Or with our regular clients, we publish rates at $200 an hour, and that's how we do our pricing. And I actually billed out in my last job before I started this company. I billed out at $300 an hour.
No shit.
Yeah, because I ran the Chicago office of a New York PR firm. And those were our rates. I was a senior vice president.
Yeah, there's a corporation overhead.
Yeah, that's what SVPs build out as. And so when I launched Accrete, I cut that in half. And so for our regular clients, our rates were $150 an hour.
Wow.
And that was part of, I said, look, you're getting, someone who used to run a division of a New York PR firm for half the cost.
Yeah.
And actually my model, the way I run my company, is a lot of part-time people, because I saw a lot of women leave the PR industry when they have kids because they don't want to work 70-hour weeks. So I have a bunch of kick-ass, highly qualified women who work with me, and I can offer lower rates because they all work part-time. I get their ideas,
which they love because they can
they're there at
pick
3
their
o'clock
schedule.
school pickup. Exactly.
Right.
And there's other people on my team who don't have kids, but they can be involved in the arts. They can do songwriting. Like we have
the 24-year-old.
Right. Yeah, and she can, when she wants to, like,
maybe you can paint your apartment so it looks better.
Maybe she should move into a modular apartment building when they're ready.
Just move into the factory.
That's not an option, but
okay, cool. So you bring value. They got to pay for your value, but you're going to bring
Absolutely.
value. Love it. All right, you can help those people make some cash and make some cheddar and make some bread.
Yeah.
All right. As a woman on some of these boards, or as a woman running a company in the last 8 years, has it been easy? Has it been hard? Have you had to step up your game? Are you seeing parts of yourself you're like, damn, I didn't know I had that in me?
It's so funny because I thought I knew how, before I founded Accrete, I thought I knew how to run a company because, I was running an office. I was in charge of a practice area. I'm like, I got this.
I run a New York, PR firm, Chicago office.
Exactly.
Don't F with me.
Well, that wasn't exactly the way I launched the company, but something along those lines.
That's what it sounded like in your head.
And I figured out, oh my God, once you launch your company.
I was way too direct with that, right? All right, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, no, I mean, everybody when they worked for other people before they launch their own company, they think they know how to do it, right? And I was no different. And then you figure out you got to deal with taxes and you got to deal with
so much petty shit.
Yeah, all this stuff.
Actually, it's not petty, it's super important.
It is extremely
Getting people
important.
paid is super important.
You got to file a corporate tax form with the state once a year.
Yep.
And so just little things like that, like running a company has a bunch of things that have to do with it that are completely separate from like doing your job as a PR professional.
My sister always told me, she's like, I'm dying to open up a cupcake place. She makes killer cupcakes and cookies. And I'm like, babe, if you want to do that, do it. But just know one thing. You will not be baking any cupcakes or cookies while running this company at all. You'll be managing the bakers.
It's so true.
You'll be figuring out payroll, make sure your bank account has enough money in it. You'll be doing so much crap with the government. And she's like, oh, never mind. I'm just going to keep baking at home. I'm like, yeah, or go get a job as a baker.
Yeah.
Just be a pastry chef.
That's another thing too, exactly.
Do that too. Yeah.
So you learned all this the hard way.
So
like everyone does pretty much.
Actually, I was pretty lucky because my significant other has been on this podcast.
Yeah, Jeff, we had your yes.
So not everyone has an MBA at home who had a major in entrepreneurship and kind of knows what to do with starting a company.
Good.
So I was very lucky to have him as my partner and, in starting the company and able to do that. But what I didn't expect was that it would be a little bit harder as a woman because I figured it's PR. It's a very woman-centric
It's a woman
industry,
thing, right?
Right? Like it shouldn't be hard for a woman to make it in PR. It's not exactly counterintuitive.
But now it's PR as a woman, but without the big title and the big office and the big New York firm.
What's interesting is if you look at the demographics of the PR industry, it's like something, and don't quote me on the exact statistics here, but it's something like 80% of the people in the industry are women, but then in the C-suite, 80% of the people are men. And it's partially because women drop out of the industry to have kids. Some of it's, just old-fashioned sexism.
It's like. I mean, I hate to bring this example. It's kind of like a pimp, right? The pimp is always a man, right? But all the people working in the industry are female. How is it not a
fortunate comparison?
How is it not a female pimp? They would understand.
I think they're called madams in that industry.
Madam.
Yeah.
That's a brothel.
That possibly, yeah.
I think of actually, you're right. There is that.
So there's a few.
There's some of that. You're right. All right, damn it. I'm not perfect in my example. All right, so give us like the worst, or not worst, but like give us the a moment where that became so crystal clear to you that you're like, oh shit.
Oh, I can trace that down to the minute, actually.
To the minute.
2017.
Okay, go for it.
So 2017.
I was trying to set it up for you, like Dorothy, this ain't Kansas? Is that it?
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know Wizard of Oz?
I know of it. I'm just kidding. I've seen it. Yeah.
Isn't it Dorothy, Kansas, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Good.
You're not in Kansas anymore.
You're not in Kansas anymore. Yeah. Where you realize you're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
When
so
was
I founded the company in 2011. 2017 comes around.
6 years later.
6 years later. So we're hosting an event. Our client is sponsoring it. I've got a team of people on site. We're in the NBC Tower in some unfinished space, and it's a prop tech event, right? So
this is downtown, so this is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's a national company that is doing this, event. A national media outlet is there.
Got it. And you're what are you doing there?
So
did you help host it and put it together?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're kind of
every bit of the event.
You're kind of a big wig at the event.
A little. I wouldn't say a big wig. I would say actually we were like making it happen. So the event is happening, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to network the shit out of this thing. I'm going to meet a bunch of people, and this is going to be a big deal for us.
Nice.
So, and we had been there from early morning hours. So fast forward to the networking portion, I'm there, and so I'm standing there, and this guy comes up to me, and it's kind of an empty room because it's still pretty early in the morning. We're talking like 45 minutes before the actual programming begins. And but I've been there a while, so I've had my coffee. This guy walks up to me,
and you're like, you're fixing your dress, and you're like, your hair. You're like, all right, here we go. I'm gonna freaking nail this.
I was like ready to conquer the world, right? Yeah. and he kind of walks up to me, and I'm like, hi, how are you? And he's like, dead silence.
Blank stare, dead silence.
Blank stare, dead silence. Then I was like, hey, I'm Margy. Nice to. He's turned away.
Did
he's walking away from me.
Was he at least looking at you?
He did for a very long, uncomfortable moment.
And what about your name tag? And what about
so on my name tag, it said Margy Sweeney, Principal, Crete.
Okay.
And I realized, and so that he looked at my name tag and he turned away. He literally, this guy, he's obviously kind of socially awkward.
Yes.
But this was kind of an extreme situation.
Or just has his head up his ass.
Or both. Yeah. And so he just literally walked away from me.
And do you believe that was because you're a woman?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Wow.
Because he walks over, because it was a relatively empty room, right? Walks over to this dude in the tech uniform. He's got on khakis and a North Face.
Oh, after he walks away from you, he now walks towards the dude.
Walks directly over to this other guy. So I was just like, okay, what's going on here? I've been in commercial real estate for decades, so I'm used to that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I was like, well, what the heck? It was very uncouth, right?
Totally. Great word.
And so I'm like, I'm going to kind of observe as the day goes on and see what is this dynamic that's going on here. And what I realized, I'm like, so
you ran an experiment.
Yeah, I did. I was like, okay, what's going on with this? Is this just like pure sexism, or was that guy just weird and awkward? Right. And what I realized throughout the day was that people were networking with two types of people. They were networking with dudes, so dudes networking with other dudes, or they were networking with people whose title was CEO. Like I observed very closely, like the rest of the
you really
day,
started
because
looking.
I was like, I want to.
This hit home.
Oh yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah, that would hit home for me.
Here?
That's like my Lester Crown example, kind of.
It is.
He at least stood around though.
Yeah.
He started.
Well, I think he's a little more sophisticated than this random tech guy. I'm going to give Lester Crown a little bit of credit. But, this guy was clearly like awkward enough that it stuck in my mind. So what I realized was like, well, wait a minute. I founded a company. I'm the leader of the organization. Why am I still calling myself principal? Because a principal implies that there could be multiple principals.
Sure.
It's not as weighty a title as founder and CEO. Next day, I ordered new business cards.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was like, okay, like I can play this game.
All right, continue the
if
experiment.
If this is the game that is being played, guess what?
As a woman, I'm going to have to really pull out all the stops.
And also, I don't have to ask anybody's permission. Like, I
of course.
run this company. Like,
of course.
I have gone through all those growing pains of the first 6 years and everything.
Wow.
Like, at that point, we're already $1 million company.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to be taken for just like some event girl.
Yeah.
Which nobody should be pejoratively talked about that way, but definitely I think he literally just assumed because of my gender and my lack of CEO title that I was just there setting up.
Walks up, looks at your tag, and walks away.
Yeah, like setting up the fruit and coffee or something.
What a clown! This guy's a piece of work.
Oh, totally. And I'm glad I don't know who he was because I did not go back and talk to him.
He's so unaware of his unconscious bias, probably.
Yeah, his unconscious bias. I don't think he was trying to be rude.
Correct.
So before we get off this, though, the interesting thing that happened was after I got
that's what I want to know. Continue the experiment.
Yeah, so I changed my email signature. I got new business cards, and the world completely changed in the way that it related to me.
Holy shit.
It was as if, like, by like owning that mantle of like founder and CEO, that all of a sudden there was a different relationship between me and men in particular. Like, I think... Yeah. And, there are other women in these industries that, I generally network well with and everything, and they have some of the same biases. But, I think that there's definitely a dynamic where men are looking for power. They're looking for weighty titles. And there's kind of an unconscious bias that other men will have that and women won't necessarily have that. So I was like, well, I can change one of two things. And I'd rather change my business card than my gender. So there we go.
I'm non-binary. That would be crazy if you change your gender just for that reason. Wow.
Yeah, that was not a direction I chose to go with.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Wow. So you started getting way more leads, way more communication, way more people reaching out to you because if you, it's like women really have to like pull out all the stops. Like they have to really use everything to their advantage to like just try and get to that equal level.
Well, and women don't is the thing that culturally we're trained to be modest. We're trained to be like, oh, okay. Like when I launched the company, I launched it as principal because I'm like, what am I CEO of? I'm like CEO of myself. Like, congratulations. It's like being mayor on Foursquare of my own living room. Like, I didn't want to overstate it, but I know a lot of people, a lot of guys start companies and, own that right away. And I think that more women need to do that.
Yeah.
I know some who do. And I think that more so women are encouraged to be modest, to be, not necessarily told, oh, titles aren't that important. Well, they are important. And the world does relate to you differently. And so I think that if you are running an organization, like be the CEO, be the president, like own that shit.
There's something, I'm Muslim. And so in the Quran, I mean, biblically too, this is true. And in the Egyptian, in the Hebrew Bible as well. But like it's something in Islam that was said before that there's never been a female pharaoh. Like, do you know the story of Pharaoh in the Bible? Mm-hmm. The Egyptian who everyone
I'm not too religious, so I'm only going to stick with you for a certain amount here. But
well, it's a basic kind of Donald Trump story, which is like very few people in history have ever said, bow down to me. I am your Lord. And in the Bibles and in the Quran, it's like Pharaoh did that. And he's the archetype for the ugliest ego, if you will, right? And so, everyone, bow down to me. And so there's this Muslim saying, like, hey, women do not have that burden in a way that men There's never been a female pharaoh that's ever kind of said that in that way. Historically speaking, I don't know if there is or isn't, but like from all the religious reading I've done, I've never seen that. I've never seen a female ever say that.
I'm positive there's got to be an exception somewhere.
I would think so. I would think so.
There's goddesses. There's got to have been some crazy queen somewhere.
Catherine the Great, maybe.
Yeah, there's got to be one or two, but I mean, you're totally right.
I'm thinking more of ancient.
Is definitely.
I'm thinking ancient, but Catherine Great might be an example because that's so in the ancient books, in the ancient the old writings, the Old Testament, New Testament, Quran, all I don't think I've never seen anything like that about a woman saying that. So that's just in the ancient. In the more modern history, yeah, maybe there's something there.
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I claimed founder and CEO, but I'm not going to take it to the next level.
Bow down to me, bitches.
Yeah, I'm going to stay where I'm at. I'm pretty happy with
Margy.
the CEO.
PR people, hail Margy, Sweeney.
Great. Let's cut
Hare
this down.
Krishna.
All right.
But if you think about it, like in general, I mean, you're gonna have there's a lot of Donald Trumps and other people like that. But just think about our world right now. How many women are out there that are kind of exuding that type of energy?
More and more every day, and I think that's good. Honestly, like I don't think the narcissistic worship me level is.
That's
great.
what I'm talking about. That energy.
But a lot of people thought Hillary Clinton had that energy, and they didn't like it. Like she was not popular, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought she had that energy, and they didn't like it, but they're okay with it in men. And that did have something to do with how unpopular she was as a candidate. Wasn't the only reason. But,
yeah.
People don't like women with big egos. They really don't. And so when you have very successful women, like, who are CEOs of banks and things like that, which we do have now, which is great, they generally have to manage that. And men don't really have to think about that. Men are like, yeah, I'm CEO. Like, come on,
swashbuckling, worship me.
And but if you look at it, a lot of the female CEOs, the really successful ones, they are very modest in the way that they present themselves. And it's always company first. It's let's do this together, and that works well for them. Is it right that our culture accepts that from men and not from women? Probably not. Is it better that we have less narcissists? Definitely.
We're not really. I think the majority of people are even Trump supporters. I think are turned off by his attitude and his, unchecked ego, his seemingly lack of self-control. And
I don't think that's people's favorite thing about him.
Correct. Even his supporters, but they're like, "But I support his policies."
Ironically, that was his appeal. Is that they just knew that he was full of shit.
What do you mean?
It's just that it wasn't. It was somebody that blatantly you could tell that he was full of crap, doesn't know a buffoon pretty much. Instead of being fed a candidate that's business as usual, at least with Trump,
this guy's definitely different.
It's going to be business as usual right up front, instead of like being fed anything that
political
says
BS.
Political BS that's been fed to Americans.
You're right.
For
so at some level,
ironic,
years upon years.
At some level, that the fact that he was an outsider, I think, is what you're saying. Is what the draw was. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it was the kind of bumbling ego that we all that we always experience of him that people were drawn to necessarily. I think it was that he's an outsider.
I think people love his ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people like that in a male leader, and they hate it in a female leader. I think I agree with you. That was one of the things.
Are you saying that?
Yeah.
That people? I don't think it's their favorite thing about him, but unconsciously they wanted a strong leader. People who voted for Trump wanted a strong.
Okay,
leader
people
in the
who voted
White
for Trump. Yeah,
So,
I got you.
And that's his ego.
People who didn't. Yeah. Okay. I see. I thought even people who. You can be a strong leader without having that ego. I guess they're conflating it all.
I agree.
I can go on forever talking about this because it's
Trump
really
is that leader, but I think you can be a strong leader without having that ego. But
correct. It's I can go on forever because it's fascinating me.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, John?
Not really.
There's no better note than to say thank you, Margy Sweeney, for being here.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Thank
what
you
an
for having
awesome
me.
final story there to inspire people to own your founder CEO title. Come on now.
Yeah.
Don't mess with that shit.
Yeah.
Maddie,
Don't be too
Go after
humble.
that title.
nice to meet you, Maddie. Thanks for being here. John D.
Always a pleasure.
J. Doe.
Pound it.
Pound it. Thank you for listening, all. Peace.
Peace.
All right. Thank you.